Your listeners might be ashamed of their story or have things in their story that they don't like to talk about because they're painful. But I just want to tell them today, the area of deepest woundedness in your life is the place where you will make the biggest impact because it is authentic.
Dan, would you give people a little bit more about your story, right? Before we dive into the water of Jesus wells, a little bit more about your story and background, and then we'll weave in how to get started here with water of Jesus wells. Okay, go.
Well, I'm getting kind of old, so my story can be a long one, but let me just give you the short version. I grew up similar to you. I was third born. I have two older brothers. And when I was about 6 years old, my grandpa came into my room in the middle of the night and said, "Hey, your dad's made some bad decisions and you may or may not see him again." And I was just devastated. And I remember what I went through as I entered into junior high. And I kind of said, "God let me down. God wasn't there. I went to Sunday school. I did the flannel board Jesus. I had the checks after my name. He should have taken care of me. How could this happen to my family?" And I took it out on God. I felt like he had abandoned me, but really God was putting a fire in my heart to make an impact on people like me. And your listeners might be ashamed of their story or have things in their story that they don't like to talk about because they're painful. But I just want to tell them today, the area of deepest woundedness in your life is the place where you will make the biggest impact because it is authentic. And I learned as a young person, as I started doing ministry, I said, "God, I'm going to be honest about my story." And I would share about what I went through. And there was so many other young people that would say, "I thought I was the only one that felt this way." And I was able to speak right in. But Brett, I was a very positive, outgoing, happy, joyful person. And so God just has blessed me in so many ways, whether it was going to the small church that we were a part of that had about 200 adults. And all of a sudden we had, 100 high schoolers and 80 middle schoolers, and our youth group was almost as big as the entire church, or doing a worship service like Celebration for College and Career that ballooned 1,000 people. And we just got to see people worshiping and going all over the world with the good news. And it was happy news of the gospel. So for me, the water of Jesus wells just came out of me growing up in a difficult circumstance and always having people that rallied around me to help me. I was never self-sufficient. I needed people to help me. And I even went on a father-son trip with some of my buddies. And they knew I didn't have a dad in my life, which I think is the biggest disadvantage of all. It crosses racial barriers, wealth barriers. If you're growing up in a broken home, you have a severe disadvantage about how to live, how to deal with people. And I went on this camping trip, and at the end of the week, the dads pulled me aside and they said, "Hey, we've just been watching you, and you're charismatic and joyful and smart. And if you really were willing to work hard, you could do something special with your life." And you know what my response was, Brett? I said, "Did you really think so?" I never had an adult man look me in the eye and say, "You have what it takes." Not once in my entire life. And it just woke me up. And I was doing bad in school then. I was kind of acting out. I decided, hey, if I'm cool and people think I'm funny, that's going to get me where I want to go. And I just buckled down on my school and paid my way through UCLA. Chose to go into ministry, and then God has just done so many amazing things through me. And so water Jesus well is one of my favorite things because it literally saves lives. Number two, it's led to a revival through this entire Muslim dominated area where I have personally baptized over 400 Ugandans in the Nile. People think, oh, people need water, it's just water. No, it's the gospel in action. When people don't have daily necessities and you bring it, it literally changes the way they view the entire world. And, for me, I had armed guards when I first went because as a Christian white guy, I stuck out like a sore thumb, and a lot of people were not happy that I was there. We installed the very first well and the guards went away, and I said, "Hey, am I safe?" And they said, "We're in an honor culture. Now that you've done good to our community, if anyone was to do anything to you, there would be great shame on them and it would be community justice. And so you don't need to be protected. You are family now. What you have done for us, we can never repay." And I'll just never forget that impact. And then you say, the reason I'm doing it, it's not water of Dan Palmer wells. It's the water of Jesus wells. God has ordained for me as his messenger to be here in this moment to give you this incredible gift for you and your kids. And it's because he sees you and he loves you and he hasn't forgotten you and he's here in your moment of need. And they see firsthand the greatness of God in their life.